Welcome in, guys, to the first Cash It podcast episode. My name is Ben. I'm here with my good friend John, and we're going to go through a rundown of some of what's going on in the NFL playoffs, as well as what's been taking place in the NBA recently. For those of you guys who don't know me, Ben Angulo, been covering sports for about 7 years, really focused on sports betting for the last 4. Been working with my friend John here, who has been doing it a bit longer than I have.
A little more than 7 years, just a few more than 7.
Yep, John's been beating books for a little longer than me. I'll let him go ahead and tell you about that.
Yeah, I've been around quite a bit. Started in this business literally as a teenager. Used to run parlay tickets for my old man, an old-time bookmaker back in the day. Been on both sides of the fence, booking and betting at a high level. Now just trying to show you guys how to take the information that us sharps use and get an edge on the book.
And that is the name of the game, getting an edge, beating numbers. A lot of you guys have been watching us on Instagram Lives, Twitch streams all throughout. Just so you guys know, we are going to be posting these episodes on Tuesdays and Fridays for starters. Eventually, we might tick up how many more episodes we're doing a week. You guys can find these both on Spotify and YouTube. We are recording this on Monday, so we're going to do a little bit of a dive into Tuesday's games. But first, let's do a little bit of recap this weekend. And, John, we can start with this Eagles-Giants game. I know you and I talked a lot about it. I mean, Eagles, 2 different teams throughout the regular season. First half of the team looked like the best team in football. Then the injuries started piling up. Back end of the season, they get Hurts back, looked a little shaky. But that bye week really seemed to pay off. Absolutely smoked the Giants, got it done big time on the ground. Defensively, they held down the Giants team, which, granted, they look good against Minnesota. But, I mean, it's a Minnesota team that was the worst defense in the playoffs. I don't know if you had any major takeaways from that game, but originally I thought San Francisco was going to run away with the NFC, and now I think it's going to be a little bit more of a fight.
Well, what got taken away was some of my dollars because I was on the Giants in that game. Look, Giants finished the season best against the spread record, 5 straight wins against the spread to close the year out, and the first playoff game against many. Philly, like you said, Hurts after crushing the Giants at Giant Stadium. That's where he gets hurt. The last 4 weeks of the season, they just go 2-2, 0-4 against the spread. They get the bye week, and it's just what the doctor ordered because he came back and he played great. They run for 260? They literally ran the ball down the Giants' throats, made easy work of them. So it looked like that there was divisional opponents. You thought that the third time they'd keep them in the game, but that game was over. Giants going for it on a 4th down after they didn't get it. Eagles scoring that second touchdown basically ended the game right there. Think they'll have a little tougher time with San Fran because, as you said, I've got 49ers still rated as the best team. Eagles now look like the team they were in weeks 7 through 14. But 49ers have 12 straight wins, 10-2 against the spread. All they do is win, and they stop the run. Best team against the run in the NFL, so it'll be strength against strength. What the Eagles will have going for them, best team in the NFL against the pass. Fewest yards per game and 70 sacks during the regular season, 15 more than the next team, KC, with 55, and another 5 sacks on a mobile Danny Jones in the last week against the Giants. 2 tough games. This one, I make this game 1.5. Wouldn't be interested, though, in taking anything less than 3. It opened up 3 dog money. It's bouncing around 2.5. Not much movement. This is a solid game. I don't think we'll see a flat 3 again. If we did, I'd be on the 49ers.
Yeah, San Francisco, their defense looked as good as they have all year long, which has been what they are, a defensive team. And I know we've talked about it a lot, the initial downgrade from Jimmy Garoppolo to Purdy, which turned out to not be as much of a downgrade. If not, Purdy's looked a bit better. But Purdy just did what Jimmy would have done, which is game manage, not make any mistakes, and let the defense take care of that football game, which is completely different to how the Eagles play the Cowboys throughout the year. A couple of very high-scoring matchups. Going to be interesting to see how that looks. I would lean to this being a little bit more of a low-scoring matchup, just as far as the Eagles' defense, 1, looked really good against the Giants. 2, Purdy, as good as he was in the regular season, he was great in the opening round against Seattle. saw a little bit of the shakiness there against Dallas. Nothing too crazy. I mean, especially for a rookie quarterback who still hasn't had 10 games under his belt, but still saw some of the nerves, still saw some of the game management aspects down the stretch of the first half, clocking the football, cutting it a little too close. Got the job done, did great, especially for the situation he was in. I just think that it's going to be a bit more of a low-scoring matchup against Philly.
Look, they met last year. Granted, it was week 2. So it was before the Eagles took that next step. The Eagles started getting better second half of the season last year, and they continued their ascension this year. But that score was 17-11 at Philadelphia week 2 last year. I agree with you. 49ers, number 1 team against the run. Eagles, number 1 team against the pass. There's not going to be fireworks in this game. I see this more like a 21-17 game.
Yeah, we'll see how that pans out. I mean, San Francisco against Dallas took care of everything they needed to do. As far as the San Francisco defense, what they did there against Prescott, forced another 2 interceptions, and it's going to bring up a little point here just about this Dallas team. I mean, got all the pieces you need. They got the weapons, offensive line, the defense, and the quarterback just not getting it done. So, John, I'm going to go ahead and give you a list of quarterbacks here. You're just going to tell me whether or not you'd rather have Dak Prescott or where you would have the other quarterback.
Give me Roger Staubach right now. Give me anybody but Dak. I don't know if it's the pressure, and I'll kick the extra points if they need it. I don't know. Like, I'll be honest with you, she should have got cut, I'm guessing, right after that Tampa Bay fiasco. But to go miss the first extra point or get it blocked, you got to get that fixed. But hey, look, Dak is in a tough spot. This Dallas, I'm watching memes all day, like the Cowboy fans going crazy, throwing their TVs out the window, running over their TVs, eating 15,000 calorie burgers. This was the 49ers at San Fran. You weren't the favorite to win this game. I don't know what, the big boo-ha-ha is about. I know Jerry Jones wants to win. Too bad. Ain't getting it done this year. San Fran was a better team. They had the better record. You had to go there to play them. They were the favorite. They won the game. As far as Dak, he's not that bad. Again, coming off an injury. He missed some time this week. He had that one stretch where we were on fire. Does he make bad decisions once in a while? He absolutely does, and it'll cost him a pick here or there. Then he'll make some great passes. Will I take other quarterbacks above him? Of course I would. You could say that about most of the quarterbacks in the NFL.
In your eyes, was he the worst quarterback in the playoffs this year? Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith. You taking those guys over Dak Prescott?
You know what? I don't know that. CeeDee Lamb, okay, I get it, but does he have a monster wide receiver? Does he have a go-to guy? Look at what Burrow's working with.
Oh yeah.
Does he have a Chase Boyd Higgins combo? Hurst at the tight end. So it's all about that also. Is he the worst? He's not the worst. He's far from the best. He's somewhere in the middle of the pack. Dak, good luck wherever you wind up.
And speaking of Burrow and those weapons, we can go right into that game with Buffalo. The story of the week was, no offensive line for the Bengals. You're missing 3 key offensive linemen. Story of last year and last season's postseason was, Joe Burrow had no protection. He, they set an NFL playoff record for most sacks allowed in a postseason, still managed to give a competitive game, get to the Super Bowl, and gave the Rams a competitive game in the Super Bowl. It didn't matter at Buffalo. In the snow, on the road, tough environment. Did not matter. They looked good out the gates. Only 1 sack. The quick releases, and even not even on passes he was completing. It was quick releases to avoid sacks, quick dump offs. And when he didn't have that immediate read to one of those plethora of weapons you just mentioned, very excited for that matchup coming up with KC. I know you were on the Bengals, and shout out to everybody who follows on Instagram and TikTok. Should have gotten that free play as well. Any takeaways from that game?
Just what you said, Ben. 3 offensive linemen missing. They came out with a fantastic game plan in the snow. Get rid of the ball quick. He did. They went down first 2 touchdowns. No. That game was over. Taking 6 points, even with missing the offensive lineman. During the course of the game, the offensive linemen that were in the game got more comfortable as that game went along. They played good, and they'll need it. Chiefs are the second leading team in sacks with 55. So they gained a little confidence in this game. Burrow was great. Taking 6 was basically a no-brainer. Even with missing the lineman, it's a lot of points. All Cincinnati's done is won their last 10, 9-0-1 against the spread, and they'll take that into KC. Look, we gave that out to our VIP members first thing this morning. Bengals +1. Bengals have won the last 3 meetings with Burrow and Mahomes, each time by a field goal. Beat them in a championship game at KC last year in overtime. Beat them this year. I believe that was week 13 in 27-24 in Cincy, right? And then they go and beat them last year, week 17 in Cincy again by a field goal. So they're already in their head. They've already got the leg up. You throw in the Mahomes injury, this was a no-brainer. This is a high ankle sprain for Mahomes. This is a 2-week injury at the minimum. If he's out there, he's not going to be 100% or close to 100%. This is a love bet for me. I have 2 kind of bets, a like bet and a love bet. With the way they've dominated the series, 3 straight, no fear. I think what we're watching here is the beginning of a new GOAT. This kid just comes in with all the confidence in the world, gets the job done. I think he'll get it done again at KC. I took +1. This line's already gone to Cincinnati, 1 the favorite now.
Yeah, what you're saying about him being the next GOAT, definitely going to be, he's on track for it. I mean, what he did last year without an offensive line, they re-strengthened that a little bit. The whole quarterback conversation has really been between the 3 AFC quarterbacks, Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen. And sure, you can argue Mahomes and Burrow all day long, maybe give Mahomes more of the track record, but bring them into this game with Mahomes banged up. I mean, the edge is clearly to Burrow, clearly to Cincinnati offense. KC is going to need some big performances. As far as Buffalo, I mean, obviously the defense didn't get done what they should have with Cincinnati missing an offensive line. Obviously that secondary was already depleted with Hamlin hideout and then Von Miller on the rush. I mean, they were missing some bodies defensively, but the offense, I mean, just getting 10 points there at home in a playoff game, the lowest number they scored all season long. I know that surprised me a little bit, especially after what we saw from them last year, because it wasn't a lack of offense that knocked them out last season. It was just they didn't have the ball in the last 13 seconds. I don't know if you were surprised by that as well.
Man, take that first quarter, a 3 and out. I think Buffalo had all of 6 yards, 8 yards in the first quarter.
Yep.
Cincinnati just put it to them. And that's what I think will happen again. You've got Mahomes on a gimpy ankle. You've got Rita, Hubbard, Hendrickson. I'd be getting after Mahomes. If that ankle's okay, well, they'll prove it to us. Okay, let's start using those legs, but put the pressure on him. And they put it all over Allen. Great job by the Cincinnati coordinators. Yep. Allen, the whole second half of the year, just shaky. Ever since the injury, I guess it was around week 11 or 12, just never regained. Yeah, he had a couple of 300-yard passing games, but a lot of turnovers. Just wasn't the same dominating Buffalo offense. And, hey, Cincinnati got it done in Buffalo-type weather without 3 offensive linemen. Not saying a lot for Buffalo. Look, Buffalo I had them rated as the best team in the NFL going into the game against the Chiefs, the obvious playoff revenge from last year. Problem is, yeah, they did get banged up, but it looks like the Chiefs thought that was their Super Bowl. Yeah. From that point on, they just weren't the same dominating team. First few weeks, Bills were just running roughshod over teams. Just 2 games at home, absolutely crushed the Titans and the Steelers. From that point on, they only covered 1 other game, and that was at the end of the season against New England at home. So going into the game yesterday, they were 1-5 against the spread their last 6, made it just that much easier to take the Bengals, who've been red hot.
And now I want to take a question to you about, obviously you like to pride yourself as a line maker. That's one thing. And for those of you guys who don't know John's ratings, if you guys become a How to Beat the Bookie member, you'll get access to all of his ratings, NFL, NBA, and MLB, to how he makes a line, part of how he gets an edge. As far as KC Cincinnati, right? So we already mentioned you gave that out as a free bet. The +1, it's a love bet for you. How do you make a line? You're already on the right side. It's already flipped to Cincy favorite. How do you manage? Because looking at your ratings going into it, if it's no Mahomes injury, You have KC as the favorite, rightfully so, at home. Now you have to factor in the injury. How many points do you take off there, and how do you make that adjustment?
Mahomes is huge. Mahomes isn't your average quarterback. Mahomes is your best quarterback in the NFL. Highest QBR, most TD passes, most total yards passing. So this isn't your run-of-the-mill quarterback you're replacing. You can't replace. I mean, this is Houdini of the quarterbacks. Some of the plays he makes, I don't think he even knows what he's doing. He just gets it done on the run. That won't be happening. Not on this ankle. Yes, if you were going by my ratings, this game would be about a 3-point KC favorite. This is not the case. First of all, what I also will take in, my ratings are, again, the base. That's how I get a base number. So that would be 3 points. But then comes the trends where Cincinnati has won 3 straight against them. They're the hot team going in. As I said, KC, I believe they're 1-7-1 against the spread at home. They don't cover. All Bengals do is cover. Look, Bengals have been red hot since the second half of last year. Little road bump, couple of games early in the season. Since then, like I said, 10 straight wins, 9-0-1 against the spread. So where my base number is 3, you've got to throw that out. As a matter of fact, good point, Ben. I'm going to put that on the website. So I don't want anybody jumping on the Chiefs thinking it's a 4-point swing.
Right.
If a matter of fact, prior to the Giant game, I had a different rating for the Eagles, and I put in the box Hurts not 100%. In other words, that was their rating with Hurts not 100%. He's a lot closer to 100%. We saw that this last week. As far as the Eagle game, as long as we're talking about ratings, so I'll give you an idea how I make 1.5, and that's simple. So I've got Eagles rated 31.0 at home, 49ers rated 30.0 on the road. So the difference is 1. You throw in, Eagles have no travel. They played at home. They had to bye the prior week, and they played a day earlier. I'll give them another 0.5 point for that. It's 1.5. That's a solid number. Again, I would need 3 to take the 49ers, though. Always a little room for a little extra point. If it's 1.5 and you're taking 2.5, that doesn't cover the edge on the book. If I get 3, I feel like I have the edge.
Yeah, the edge, guys, that's what we talk about all the time. It's all about finding value, beating the number. You can't guarantee any one game, but getting an edge long-term will pay out. We can go into a little bit here now, NBA. It's a little bit of an NFL recap. For those of you guys, we will be posting another podcast on Friday. So if you guys tune in on Friday as well, we'll have another little rundown prior to the weekend. Crazy weekend in the NBA, and quite frankly, just a crazy season in the NBA. A lot of crazy runs, back end of games, a lot of upsets, the injuries, a lot of teams playing shorthanded, getting big wins. I know we were together on Friday back in Florida, and on Friday, nobody can miss. I mean, these teams are just shooting lights out across the board. San Antonio and Clippers both shooting damn near 60%, Clippers over 60%. That Golden State team, empty-handed, and that's a trend. I know you'd like to talk about trends. Something we got caught up there on the second half. Golden State, 23 threes, 54% from deep. Crazy game. And that's one I agree with you on that second half bet. You can go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about that second half bet. And I think that's a value play you have to take time and time again. Just sometimes they don't pan out.
Well, all I could say this is about Golden State. They're giving me nightmares. Since they went on the last road trip, we have caught them wrong every single game. So they start off this road trip going to San Antonio, but they're going to play in the Alamo Dome, not an actual, look, that's where the Spurs have played for years, but that's not their home court anymore. Golden State's been terrible on the road. There was a big number there. Thought the Spurs would get up to play that game. They had been great against the spread. As a matter of fact, going into tonight, I've actually got the Spurs tonight +9 against Portland. Spurs just losing 9 of their 11, but 8-3 against the spread in those 11. So going into that game, I liked the Spurs. I thought Popovich would come with a game. They got embarrassed by the Warriors by 31 points earlier at Golden State. I thought they'd come with a game. They didn't. They got beat by 30 again. So we were wrong there. We were wrong then when Golden State went to Chicago. Golden State basically owned Chicago, beat them every time they played them. They go to Chicago. They have a halftime lead. They spit it up. They lose the game. We bet against them at Washington. Wizards have a fourth quarter lead, only for Golden State to come storming back, take the game. We go game of the year or second half of the part two game of the year. Golden State, Boston, rematch of last year's championship. You know the Celtics have that playoff revenge, the championship revenge. Not only that, they lost their last trip out to Golden State. Steph Curry steals the ball and throws up a half-court three-pointer right at the buzzer of halftime. Excuse me, putting the Warriors ahead by a point. Thought it was a great spot for the Celtics to come storming back in the second half. They force overtime, and at one point are up 8, only to have Golden State get a couple of late buckets, and we lose the Celtic halftime. They go to Cleveland, rest everybody, have a lead at halftime, shooting over 60% in the first half with their B team. Remember, Curry, Clay, Wiggins, Dre, all on the bench in the second part of back-to-back game. They continue shooting the lights out in the second half and win that game. And then I've got them last night against the Nets, a team that, again, beat them by 30 points in Brooklyn earlier this year. They've got a 12-point lead. It was as high as 17 or 19, I believe, and they wind up blowing outright. So have not caught this team. I think if without Golden State, we're having a tremendous week. But Golden State caught off. They've got me so twisted. We'll see what happens with them in the next game. They got Memphis coming in to town. But the weekend shooting, the NBA entire season has been crazy. It's the most I've ever seen in my life. Resting key guys when they're not injured. What I saw just last night. So we saw the Lakers down 25 at Portland. Come back to get a win there. Memphis down as many as 29, all the way back just to lose by a bucket at Phoenix. We've seen this year 9-point leads evaporate in 30 seconds, and Bucks had a 21-point lead on Toronto with less than 4 minutes to go. No lead is safe. It's been a crazy NBA season. We'll finish this NBA strong and get everybody on the positive side of the ledger.
Well, if you need to feel a little bit better about the way things been going with Golden State, I guess the only thing that could be going worse is the Houston Rockets right now. I mean, 1-18 straight up, lost 13 in a row, 1-12 against the spread. They got a second game of a home-and-home tonight with Minnesota. Typically a spot we would like, right? You have these teams playing 2-game sets. You drop the first game, look for them in the second spot. And we talk about it all the time. There is never a team that you can't bet or there's no value. Usually, I mean, you have San Antonio tonight. That's the free bet today with San Antonio +9. In my opinion, this Houston team is actually unbackable. I don't think there's a way to bet this Rockets team. And I don't think in the last year and a half in any league, NBA, NFL, whatever it might be, there's been a team that's just unbackable, no way to do it.
They're close to unbackable right now, as you say. They've dropped 13 straight. Now, I don't care if you drop 13 straight, but it's the 1-12 against the spread that makes them unbackable. Like I said, I've got Spurs tonight. They've dropped 9 of 11, but they're 8-3 against the spread. Put that together with Portland playing on a back-to-back, and I've said it many times, I love Portland starting 5. Lillard, Simons, Hart, Grant, Nurkic, strong starting 5, but not much of a bench. When you don't have much of a bench, it's tough to play that back-to-back. Look, they're going to go as Lillard goes, and his last 2 games, Lillard's been terrible. The 4 or 5 games before that, he was literally lighting it up. Not so much now. So you got a Portland team coming back-to-back, losing 8 of their last 10, and also 2-8 against the spread against the Spurs team that, for the most part, take out the Golden State game and the Sacramento game, they're staying in the game. They're staying within double digits. They've covered 5 of their last 6 against Portland, including their last 3 trips to Portland. I expect them to do it again tonight. I think they'll stay within double digits. Any team can be played at the right number. I think the 9 is good, enough points for San Antonio. I don't know how many points I need for Houston right now. Minnesota owns the series. Like I said, they're 1-12 against the spread. You're missing Kevin Porter Jr. and Jabari Smith tonight, 2 of your 5 starters. It's nights like this that I say, hey, I could find a better spot than backing Houston, even if I do see a little value in it.
Yeah, absolutely. This could be a spot, but teams just playing too difficult right now to be interested. This 76ers team, you just talked about Portland there. I mean, Portland's been having some tough losses lately. That was one of them. Getting Philly, that was a tough loss as well. 76ers go on this West Coast road trip, and they absolutely take care of business. They win all 5 games. They even play that last game at Sacramento. No Harden, no Embiid. Maxey comes up with a big performance. They end up getting it done. And they have two interesting games coming up this week. They get a game with Brooklyn, and they get a game with Denver later on this week. And that game with Denver is just fascinating for multiple reasons. You're going to have arguably 2 of the better teams in the NBA right now, one of the top in the West, top in the East, the 2 best centers in the league, 2 top guys going at an MVP conversation, Jokic and Embiid. And then obviously Brooklyn's the game they have before that. As far as Eastern Conference right now, where do you have Philly going up with the rest of those teams?
Philly's right there. Philly, I've got to make number 2 right now to the Celtics. Had the Nets up there. Losing KD was huge for them. Before these last couple of games that Kyrie Irving has gone bonkers, literally beating the Jazz and Golden State single-handedly. They couldn't find their way. Without KD, they're not even in the conversation. Milwaukee Bucks is the other top team in the East, and they'll be first getting Giannis back tonight. He's missed the last 5 games. They went 2-3. The 5 games he's missed. They'll also get Middleton back tonight. He hasn't played in forever. If you get those guys back up to speed, the Bucks are the Bucks. The Bucks play defense. Giannis, Jrue Holiday, and all of a sudden Brook Lopez is giving up some D also. So Bucks could be there when they're healthy. Nets could be there with a healthy KD. Celtics are there. Excuse me. But Philly is definitely in that conversation. Philly had a monster run. I believe it was 14-1 at home. Now they've just gone on the road, West Coast road trip, swept all 5 games, and then the last one, showing their depth without Embiid and Harden at Sacramento, who's the number 3 team in the West. So great job for Philly and Doc Rivers. Embiid is a beast. They're playing Maxey off the bench. Harden is playing the best he's played since coming over to Philly. Yeah, they're real. They're in the conversation in the East.
Yeah, that point you made about Brook Lopez for Milwaukee, taking it back a little bit, very similar to me what the Celtics are getting or got out of Al Horford last season. I mean, obviously, both those guys up there in the back end of their career, all-stars at one point, now on the back tail, but it seems like they found new life as, the game's expanding as it's gone to more three-point shooting, really expanding and taking it to that next level. So going to be interested to see if Brook Lopez can continue it down the stretch of the season. We saw Al Horford be a big factor in the postseason. Celtics right now, and it's just one of those top teams in the East. They're on their second 9-game win streak this year. Obviously, the loss in the finals had that crazy game they pulled out against Golden State, where they were down big in the fourth, come all the way back, force overtime, pull it out, and then they go get an impressive win at Toronto without Jason Tatum. We have some trades now starting to happen here in the NBA. We have one today we'll get into in a little bit. As far as the Celtics, now, do you think there's any moves that he make? Think the Celtics team is the real deal? And do you think as long as they're healthy, they're the team to beat out in the East?
No, they're not making any moves. They're a solid team. I don't see room to make. You're set with Williams and Horford up front, although neither one of them will play back-to-backs. Tatum and Brown are your wings. You've got Smart, Brogdon, White, your 3 guards. I don't see where they would make a move. I think they're solid. They're the best team in the NBA today. Again, anything can happen. This is the NBA. Who can go down tomorrow? We've just had look, I'm wondering with this Hachimura trade that Ben's talking about, Wizards just traded him to the Lakers today. As far as I saw, Davis is expected back before the end of the month. Thomas Bryant just went for 31 and 14 last night. Kind of makes me wonder, is something even more wrong with AD? Why this trade? Why now? If it looks like Bryant is coming into his own, finding his way in LA, and you got AD coming back, obviously you've got LeBron there. It looks like that's just enough in the front court for me. to Ed Hachimura. We'll see what happens if I'm wrong with that. But like I said, the last report I saw was AD gearing up to play. He's getting better and better. So I guess they want the depth. But Brian put together a real good game last night. Is he the odd man out in that situation? We'll see.
Yeah, Bryant's former teammate there with Hachimura, maybe a little bit of chemistry. Yeah, I love that pickup for the Lakers. I understand what you're saying about concerns with AD, but Lakers, two things they lack is three-point shooting, a little bit of defense there, particularly in the wing area. You bring him, I think he's just a great rotationary 3-and-D player. Added a lot to Washington there on the stretches they were having when he came back. Added a lot, and like you said, the big 30-point game yesterday. Sticking here with some of these teams. So for those of you guys who haven't been keeping up with us, or maybe even those who do, we talk a lot about teams trending upward and downward. So I want to talk about two teams, John, injury-wise. First one with the Knicks, Mitchell Robinson. He goes down, now lost 4 in a row. The points, they're giving up a shitload of points. They give up 132 per game their last two. Knicks, moving forward these next couple of weeks here without Mitchell Robinson, however long he will be out, do you think that's going to be something maybe a little bit undervalued as far as the ratings? Do you think Vegas will catch up on that quicker?
Look, I've already dropped the team 2.5 points from where they were. They were playing great basketball, third in the league, opponent's field goal percentage at 45.2%. And all of a sudden, the last two games without him get blitzed at Atlanta and get blitzed again by Toronto last night. Like you said, 130 points over the last two games. Robinson was doing a great job in there. This team, they're 5 guys. NBA is 5 guys. You take one guy off that squad, that's 20% that you're taking off. And this guy looks like he's definitely it on the defensive end. They're doing their job scoring, Randall, Brunson, and Barrett. But on the defensive end, looks like he was worth it. One of the main reasons to holding opponents to 45.2% field goal percent shooting, third in the league.
Yeah, and then two teams I kind of want to talk about trending upwards a little bit. Phoenix Suns. Now, obviously, they've had a slew of injuries. You just talked about that Memphis game. They had the big lead, almost blew it, but they held on. Prior to that, they beat up a couple of banged-up teams. Indiana without Halliburton, the Nets without Kevin Durant. Personally, I think this Suns team is going to go on a run here this next couple of months. They had a couple of big runs both the last couple of seasons. Obviously, last year they were the top team, the best record in the NBA. Anytime you're the best record in the NBA, there has to be a month, 2-month span where you're just absolutely dominating, going on massive wins. And, those stretches there where trends are created of just teams to back on that trending upward. They get Cam Johnson back, looked pretty good. Chris Paul comes back, and that was the best thing. I think Chris Paul looked the best he's looked all year long. Start of the year, didn't quite look right. I'm not going to overreact to this one game, but Memphis, that's a young, fast team to keep up with, especially at the point guard position with John Morant. And Chris Paul looked a little bit more like his old self, almost damn near triple-double, playing great last night. And interested to see you on your read on the Suns team moving forward.
Chris Paul had a nice little rest. He had a little vacation. He came out and he was rested. Chris Paul got a little long in the tooth. If you guys remember last year in the playoffs with Booker out, basically beat the Pelicans himself. But that might have just wore him down for that last series against the Mavs. Got to have your legs under you. I'm a believer that the best thing that happened to Golden State was Steph Curry getting injured against the Celtics at the end of the season. With him sitting out, he got some rest. It also got Poole into the lineup more, be able to get his confidence going into the playoffs. So it's funny how things turn out. Ayton's missed the last couple of games. I mean, they're decimated. Payne, the backup point guard. You are missing CP3. Cameron Johnson missed the months of the season, just back the first couple of games. And you're missing Booker. I mean, that's the key. There's no run without Devin Booker. He's worth 3.5 points to that line to Phoenix right now. They need him back. They need that number one guy. There's no real clear-cut number one guy without him. Ayton could do some scoring. Bridges could have a night for you. Like you said, CP3 could dig back into the history books and come up with a night like last night. But Booker's that guy that's going to give it to you just on an night in, night out basis.
We can start to take a little bit of a dive into Tuesday's games coming up, guys. So just a reminder, we mentioned it, but we're filming this on Monday. So a lot of these games for tomorrow, still a lot of question marks on some of these injuries, very key players. And also, furthermore, you have, 3 teams coming in on back-to-back, the Bulls playing on a back-to-back, Boston coming in on a back-to-back, and also Charlotte. So going to be some back-to-backs, but we'll talk about some spots coming up, maybe some games that we can have lines on, some reads that could potentially be there, depending on how some of these back-to-backs play out. First off, we can just get to one where neither team's playing tonight, so it's a little bit easier to talk about. We mentioned it just there with the Hachimura trade. Clippers-Lakers. It's the last game on the card, the nightcap game. Kawhi Leonard, these last couple of weeks, now he is starting to look like himself again, scoring 30 points a game his last 7. Clippers, they've been dropping some games. They go in and get a nice win at Dallas. Not too impressive because Dallas hasn't been playing that well lately. They've been a little bit banged up with the role players, but nonetheless, for what the Clippers have been playing this season, very underwhelming. Good to see Kawhi looking back like himself. And I know preseason you were very high on this Clippers team.
I was high on. I called them the deepest team in the NBA. You got 2 guys right now, Wall and Kennard, 2 rotation players that are out. Look, this whole season was all about Kawhi. What are we going to get out of Kawhi? If we can get anything near what he was, you could put this Clipper team in the playoffs and they can make some noise. Kawhi and Paul George, 2 of your top players. Again, Kawhi when healthy, Kawhi. And now, like you said, rough go early, was out of the lineup. He's starting to look good. Problem is, it's not only Kawhi, it's Wall. They don't play back-to-backs. Been very tough to build a cohesive unity. Paul George has missed a lot of time. If they can start getting it together, look, they're a dangerous team. Paul George and Kawhi, like I said, on the wings, they're going to play lockdown D. Either one of those guys can drop 30, 35, 40 on you in a night.
Yeah.
So the Clippers could be a team. As far as tomorrow night, all they do is beat the Lakers. They beat them 9 straight. Lakers are coming off a big win that night against Portland the other night. We'll see how they do. But like I said, Clip 9 straight wins over the Lakers. That game opened up at 4, sitting at 4. That's kind of right where I make it. My numbers, according to my ratings, in a game like this, you're going to use the Clippers home rating and the Lakers home rating because you're playing this game in the same building. Lakers and Clippers use, I still call it the Staples Centers. I don't know what they're calling it now.
The crypto.com arena, whatever the hell it is.
So if you take both of their home ratings, I got the Clippers rated 4.3 better. Just give the Lakers a little bit of an edge because it's the fans will be using the Laker tickets. Fans will be there. And the last 5 games that the Lakers have had the home court designation, the last 4 games, they've lost all 4, but they've lost by a combined 20 points, 5 points a game. My number on the game is 4, just what this line is. If there's no major injuries in this game, you're going to see the game close right there.
Yeah, it's going to have to be Clippers or nobody. I mean, I agree with you on the number. It's a bit steeper. And earlier into this trend of Clippers and Lakers, we were seeing these matchups be around 2-3 points, pretty much time in, time out, depending. Either side favored it around 2-3 points. This is one of the bigger numbers we've seen in this matchup since the LeBron, Kawhi Leonard eras in LA. But no way could you bet the Lakers in this matchup, especially the way Kawhi's been playing lately. Going to be interesting. Him and LeBron. LeBron just been on an absolute tear. And I always just keep saying lately that anyone who doesn't appreciate what LeBron's doing, I know he has a million haters out there. Just go look at Andre Iguodala, Udonis Haslem, a couple other guys in the league right now his age, playing 2 minutes here and there every once in a while. So it's just ridiculous what he's been doing this season.
Keeping the Lakers afloat. Look, they get a healthy AD back.
Yep.
Look, they're not going to threaten for a championship, but they're a playoff team, and who knows, you get a first round against the Lakers. I hate to see AD and LeBron on the other side, but Westbrook coming off the bench, you throw in Hachimura, a little bench place, all of a sudden, hey, they got a decent little team.
Yeah, since Anthony Davis has gone out, Lakers 9-7, LeBron scoring 33 a game. So that is definitely the definition of keeping them afloat. We can talk about a couple of these games here where there's not necessarily back-to-backs. It's a lot of injuries in this one. We'll bring up Denver and New Orleans. MVP, Nikola Jokic, who's just playing like the best guy in the league, no doubt about it. Numbers he's putting up, the pluses, minuses, everything you look at. Missing the last couple of games here. They get the win against Indiana, who's just been horrible ever since Halliburton's gone down. And then you have the loss that they have against OKC, but Michael Porter Jr. also missed that game. They're both listed questionable right now. We'll see how that ends up going tomorrow. As far as this New Orleans team, I mean, since they've had their injuries, they just haven't been getting it done. They're ever since Zion's gone down, just kind of the final little ticker there. 3-9 straight up, 4-8 against the spread. Their last 12. They're not playing good basketball. Pelicans got a win earlier this year. Could be a little bit of a revenge factor with the Nuggets team, who somewhat owned the matchup coming into the season, winning 5 of the last 6 meetings, 4-2 against the spread prior to the Pelicans win earlier this year. For me, it'd be a slight lean to Denver, even if Jokic and Porter don't play. I think we'd be getting Nuggets at a discount price, and I think Murray and Gordon still provide Nuggets a lot deeper than what this Pelicans team's been playing with.
Yeah, Pelicans have been they're getting worse with each passing game that they're forced to play these other guys big minutes. You're missing your 2 big scorers, Zion and Ingram. Now, Ingram has practiced the last couple of days, full participant in practice, last couple of practices, but they're still calling him doubtful for tomorrow. He's hoping to get back on the court in this current homestand. But until then, this is a Pelican team that were flying high early in the season, not so much right now. You got Denver coming in, best team, best record out west. Just had their 9-game winning streak broke by an OKC team. Like you said, you're missing Joker, and Porter was out for personal reasons, and that was his brother was involved in a fatality, a car crash. So I don't expect him to be available tomorrow night. We'll see about Joker. I thought the first night was rest, but it does look like it's a little something with the hamstring. So they'll go into Denver. If Denver had their full slate of players, this would be a spot that I think they'd have the edge after getting beat early in the season by 15. I think they would come with a little bit of a revenge, especially after losing at home. Again, it's all about the injuries.
Yeah, even if it's just the slightest of injury there for Nikola Jokic, it's just be as cautious as possible. I mean, Denver, they have a nice little cushion where they're at. And we saw it last season in the postseason with them, with Jokic just being a bit too tired, running out of gas back end of the year. So slightest bit of anything could be a toenail falling off. Keep that guy healthy and make sure he's 100% before he gets back out there. Another game here, Cavs-Knicks, not a team playing tonight still, though. A couple more injuries. We already mentioned it already with Mitchell Robinson. He's going to be out. Donovan Mitchell, he's missed last couple of games. He's supposed to be returning. And now quickly, also questionable here for the Knicks. Now, no Donovan Mitchell against the Bucks, and Cleveland just absolutely productive performance, I want to say, from Evan Mobley. Now, they were also missing Giannis, so it wasn't a fully healthy Bucks team either. But Mobley, I mean, this is, to me, one of the more impressive scoring performances we've had this season. 38 points, 19 of 27, but not a single free throw, not a single three-pointer. That's just classic old-school basketball in the mid-range and in the paint, taking advantage of it. And with the Knicks, without Mitchell Robinson, we've just mentioned in this how much they're lacking there defensively. Going to be interesting to see if Cleveland goes and attacks that point. Right now, opening number non-existent on this game, which is kind of weird considering neither of them playing tonight. So we'll see. John, what do you make on this game? And then would you have any lean to a side just based on the spot alone?
Well, there's no line on this because when the overnights initially came out, they still had Mitchell listed as questionable. Mitchell practiced today, and the coach said he's did everything in practice, so he'll be probable. Mitchell in. I've got the Cavs as a 3.5-point favorite. That's where I expect them to come up.
You guys know we would have John give out some lines day ahead of time. You just said mix this game 3.5. Pulling up Don Best screen. As you guys can see, currently no lines out on this Cavs-Knicks game. So we'll see how close it is to that number. And if there would be possibly an edge if that line is maybe a little bit under or over, depending on where they come out with this. So we'll keep an eye on that game. All these other games going to be some back-to-back. I guess there's Wizards-Mavs. Sorry, I missed a game there. Wizards-Mavs team not coming in on a back-to-back. This Washington team won their last couple of games here. Talked about it earlier with Hachimura, just a big 30-point game who they're not going to be without. Porzingis also went down in that game. He is going to be out for a little bit now. So Wizards lose their best 3-and-D guy in Hachimura. Now you're going to lose your best big guy in Porzingis. Going to be a tough spot, in my opinion, there for Dallas, or to go on the road to Dallas. And meanwhile, the Mavs still without Christian Wood. As far as this Mavs team, they're playing pretty bad right now. 2-6 straight up their last 8, coming off a loss against the Clippers. This could be maybe a little get-right game here for Dallas, catching a good Wizards team who's going to be depleted.
They better do something quick. But in this game, I've rereaded Washington now with the Hachimura trade and Porzingis being out. So if you guys are How to Beat the Bookie members, you go in the ratings, you see I've got now the Wizards rated 28.8 on the road. Porzingis, he's going to miss some time. I've got Dallas rated 35.5 at home. So you got about 6.7 home differential. Dallas was at home, so obviously no travel. The number on the game is 7. That's pretty much what the line is now. You're looking at 7. While we can't give you too much, I would like to talk about some of these other games, though, because Bulls will be keeping our eye on. Bulls are in a spot, and keep in mind, they're coming back from Paris. So they're going to be right back in a back-to-back starting tomorrow. They usually handle the Pacers. They've beaten them, 6 of the last 7. 5-2 against the spread. Pacers have looked horrible. But like I said, you've got the Bulls in a back-to-back, fresh off that European trip. Celtics Heat. Celtics have taken 2 of 3 this year. They beat the Heat beginning of the season in Miami, and then the Heat go split 2 games up in Boston in a 2-game series. Also, Celtics 4-3 knocked them out of the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So Heat will be rested, while the Celtics will be coming in back-to-back 3rd and 4th. Now, Smart and Brogdon are out tonight. We'll see if they're back tomorrow. Smart with an injury, Brogdon is personal. Robert Williams will miss tonight, but they're sitting him tonight. They'll play him tomorrow. Horford won't play tomorrow. He's playing tonight. He doesn't play back-to-backs. So regardless, Boston's going to be somewhat shorthanded in a back-to-back 3rd and 4. Looks like Heat was sleepwalking in their last game against New Orleans in the first half and then put it on in the second half, looking ahead to this Miami Heat game. So I'm going to have a little lean to the Heat. Again, depends how tight the game is tonight. Is it a cruise, or do you got to have Tatum and Brown out there for 40 minutes? So we'll be looking at that game also.
Make a quick point there about that Miami game you mentioned with New Orleans. That's something I've noticed now in New Orleans. A couple of games in a row did something similar to Orlando. Very competitive in the first half, came out high scoring, and then just completely falling apart in the second half. And that's kind of a trend I've noticed too, as well as some of these teams who are shorthanded. They can give you a good 2 opening 24 minutes, but when it comes halftime, that other team, they get, the better team, the deeper team will show over 4 quarters. Maybe it could be a trend there for those of you guys looking, maybe get some live bets, some halftime
and
lines.
That's what we thought with the Warriors the other night at Cleveland, but they gave them 48 minutes on that particular night. So
anything can happen. And to your point about Bulls returning from Europe, from Paris, from that game there against the Pistons, the other half of the team who's coming back, they're playing tonight as well. And right now they are getting killed 28-8 in the first quarter. So you're definitely seeing a little bit of that maybe jet lag.
Wow, what a surprise. Bucks have only beaten them 19 of the last 20 meetings. And 15-4-1 against the spread. Yep. This was just a gigantic number. First night back for Giannis and Middleton. 11-point favorites on the road. Just couldn't pull the trigger on the Bucks. Too many points on the road, but no way. Look, 11 points at home. That's almost tailor-made for us, but just couldn't touch it. With Detroit, they're missing 2 of their 5 starters, Stewart and Hayes tonight. And like I said, total domination in this series by the Bucks.
And a little bit of news going into tomorrow just popped up. DeAndre Ayton will be out. So he's dealing with that illness, missed last 2 games, going to make it 3 straight. So this Suns team going to still be out. Ayton, Booker, Shamet, and Payne as of now. Every once in a while, you'll get one of those upgraded to questionables, but that's a very rare thing to see. So looking like those guys will be out for Tuesday. John, I know it's tough with a game like that. A lot of injuries. Hornets, they play later tonight. They're going to have their matchup at Utah. That's always a tough little back-to-back. That part of the West Coast trip teams have, going Phoenix to Utah, Utah to Phoenix. And Suns, they've been playing good right now. 3 in a row here. We mentioned a little bit earlier. Right now, no opening number on that game, obviously, with the injuries. Any spot there? What would your number be without LaMelo Ball? I know obviously it's going to kind of differentiate a little bit with Charlotte tonight.
But Ball, they haven't even ruled out for tonight as far as I've seen. They still had him listed as questionable. Maybe they don't play him tonight, play him tomorrow. So too many variables there. What I can say is Phoenix absolutely destroyed this team twice last year by a combined 65 points. Charlotte, they play better on the road than they played home. They get the job done. They've won the first 2 games of this road trip. But this will be back-to-back, 4th and 7, last game of a trip for Charlotte. So, again, it depends how they do in Utah. Utah, they've only lost their last 15 times that they visited the Jazz. So we'll see how they do. Well, again, it depends. Is it a tight game? Do they coast? A game that goes to overtime. So a lot has to do. How many minutes did these guys log? Hayward, do you let Hayward go back-to-back? He's just coming back fresh off an injury. All of these stuff in the back-to-back, this is what we're looking into already. When we're marking stuff off, again, like I talk about the Celtics, we already know Horford's not going to play. We know Williams will. This is just a trade-off. He's out tonight. Horford will sit tomorrow. The point guards, as we said, Smart and Brogdon, both out tonight, but for different reasons. Will they be in? Getting the injuries right, getting the line right, that's what it's all about. And again, a lot of games they play the next day have to do with what kind of game did they have tonight. If Charlotte goes into Utah somehow and pulls off a miracle upset, could it be a letdown game, a giveaway game, on their way going back home? If they get trounced by 25, Hayward and everybody plays limited minutes, they come back with a strong game and maybe go for the Phoenix game that embarrassed them twice last year. All depends on the series leading up to that particular game, who's healthy and what they're going to give you.
And guys, make sure you guys go download the How to Beat the Bookie app. Go to the website, become a member, because this is all information you're going to get up to the minute. We cover it 18 plus hours a day as far as these injuries, who's in, who's out. We'll make sure we get that out to you. And then as far as game previews for each game, you will have an understanding of how these games wrapped up tonight and have a little bit of insight from John just as far as how these things are shaping up for the spot, quote unquote, going into tomorrow. John, that's pretty much it for the Tuesday card. Wanted to wrap up this first episode here, asking you a little bit of a funner question here. Obviously, you've been betting, maybe 1 or 2 games in your lifetime, and been doing this for, 1,000 plus games, thousands of games, however many you want to go for. Do you have some moments, just certain games that come to mind, worst beats, worst losses? I know when I was there, watched you break a laptop, anything like that clear in memory here in any of those games.
Look, they're all bad. NBA, just how many games goes right down to the wire? So you could pick any of 100 games. I talk about one game literally back when I was a kid. Most of you young guys ain't going to know. It's a pitcher, Frank Viola, used to pitch for the Minnesota Twins. He had a 10-0 lead for the Twins playing the Cleveland Indians. And now, again, we're talking in late 70s, early 80s, when the Indians were the team from Major League, the movie. That's how bad the Indians were back then. Minnesota was going for a division. It was late in the season. A 10-0 lead with Frank Viola. That day, obviously, I was a book back in those days. So I need the Indians. Frank Viola's got a 10-0 lead. We go out drinking. Figure the game is over. You got to remember, this is a Twins at home. Frank Viola on the mound, a Cy Young candidate, 240, 260 on the line, going to a place at the end of the night to find out Cleveland had come back to get the win. It was like finding 30 grand, because you figure the money is gone already. But so that's one of the great wins. There's been so many of them. Like I said, I've been through as a kid before I was betting. Wasn't betting at 7, but 1969, we watched the Mets with Tom Seaver, a team that was just the laughingstock of the league, beat the powerhouse Baltimore Orioles. Same year in football, the Jets coming over from the AFC beat the Baltimore Colts, who were Johnny Unitas, couldn't beat a 21-point underdog Joe Namath gets it done. So these are the things. Anything can happen on any given day. We make fun of the guys that call themselves cappers because they got a lock or they got a guarantee. And if anything is true in sports betting, is that nothing is a lock. We could bet with an edge, and that's all we could do. That's as far as it goes. Once I think I could take away that edge from the book, we talk about the Cincinnati game. So we get the Bengals +1. They're now a 1-point favorite. We've taken the edge away from the book. When you're betting NFL or NBA, you're laying $1.10. If you could take that $1.10 away, and I don't mean you still have to pay the $1.10, but you're getting better points that equal or are better than laying that $1.10. You take that edge away. That's what we could do, and that's when you got your edge. Still don't mean you're going to win a game. I've had games move 5 points in the NBA, get a quick beat on the injuries, and still lose the game. Anything can happen. Again, we watched just last week while you were here, Golden State sat their 4 stars. Curry, Clay, Wiggins, and Dre sit out. They go to Cleveland, and it's not so much that they beat them, but their B team put $120 on the team that leads the league in points allowed. Cleveland gives up the fewest points allowed, and the Golden State Warrior backups put on $120 that day. So anything is possible on any given day. Get that edge, nice and easy. Stay away from parlays, stay away from teases. Stop buying points. Worst thing you could do, and get that edge. You'll make some money when you're on the right side at the right price.
That's the name of the game, guys. Get an edge. Make sure you guys go download the How to Beat the Bookie app in order to help do that. You guys can become a member there, sign up on the website. That's going to kind of wrap things up for the first Cash It podcast. So if you guys have any, comments, suggestions, topics, anything you guys want us to go over, whether it be certain little debates, you want certain betting strategies, make sure you guys put those both in the YouTube comments, put them on the Instagram post, the TikTok post. You're going to be little clips going around everywhere. John, you want anything else to wrap up this first episode?
That's about it, guys. Like I say, if you want to go to my website, check out the ratings. The ratings are key. This is how I make my line. It's the base for my line. Obviously, other things go into effect, how the teams match up together, injuries, trends. But my line, you can compare that line to ESPN's line, either FPI Football Power Index or BPI Basketball Power Index. The Sagarin ratings, which are used in the NCAA to take the college football playoffs. It's used in that method. My ratings are as good as anybody. Go down the list, and you can see what I'm talking about.
All right, guys. Follow on Instagram, How to Beat the Bookie. Follow on TikTok. Subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you guys keep up with all socials. That is where free bets are posted. And tune into this Tuesdays and Fridays. We'll have another episode coming out later this week. Let's make some money, John.
Let's make some money.